Korean President Chung-hee Park's state visit to West Germany was another step in cementing closer relations between the two countries and the further development of economic ties. President Heinrich Lübke, Chancellor Ludwig Erhard, and members of his administration were on hand to greet Korea's president and his party. It was the first time a Korean head of state ever set foot on German soil. President Park's 7-day visit was filled with a variety of official and private occasions, but the high point was a splendid reception in Bonn's Beethoven Hall. Nuncius Bafil, Dean of the Accredited Envoys in Bonn, began the ceremonies of greeting with the diplomatic corps. The Bonn discussions took place against a background of mutual recognition of the cultural and economic accomplishments of both nations. President Park's lovely wife was understandably the focal point of this social evening. For that matter, the word Korea in English means the land of great beauty. A visit to Germany's divided capital city of Berlin served to underline a special fate which both countries share, namely division. Beside the free, financially sound, bustling city of West Berlin lies East Berlin, another world behind the wall, just behind Bernauer Strasse here. President Park, standing in front of the wall, pointed out that West Germany and South Korea are the peripheries of freedom, and the preservation of that freedom is a responsibility for both peoples. They are especially close, he said, in their mutual desire for reunification. At one time, the city's expressway was intended to join both sides of the capital city. The plan called for a ring-like 6-lane highway 25 miles long, which would serve the downtown area via 4 interconnecting streets. Work on the project began in 1956, at least in West Berlin. Since then, 4.5 miles have been placed in service, and another 5 miles will soon be completed. The first section connects the suburbs of Charlottenburg and Wilmersdorf. A 250-yard tunnel and some 30 bridges span the expressway. And surprisingly, Venice notwithstanding, Berlin has altogether about 1,000 bridges, which makes it Europe's #1 bridge city. The Berlin Expressway already ties up with the federal highway and Autobahn systems servicing other cities. Even today, more than half of the tourist and commercial traffic between West Germany and Berlin travels overland. Because of the wall, completing the express ring for all of Berlin is impossible for the time being, but Berlin goes on planning for the future, oblivious to current political disagreements. Extensive additions to Berlin's Technical University are being put into service in the interests of science and research. In the newly created Aeronautics Institute, under the guidance of airplane designer Professor Celle, 30 scientific technicians are currently at work on new designs. A soft, raw plastic is shaped. Structural weaknesses, such as might be experienced under the high pressures of flight, even in light metals, are visible here. A durability test of aluminum alloy. The inspection of airplane parts for stability is one of the prime occupations at the Institute. The aerodynamic qualities of various wing shapes are tested in a subsonic wind tunnel, capable of generating an airflow of some 75 miles an hour. In a basin which operates on the whirlpool principle, visible granules flowing by the model simulate airflow in flight. Professor Herta explains the principle behind one of the vertical takeoff and landing models he developed. The jet engines are only needed for takeoff and landing and are withdrawn in level flight.
Dass ein Flugzeug für den Schnellflug da ist.
Even for the international port city of Hamburg, the recent arrival of Chief Kawatsishi of the Acoma Pueblo tribe at Hamburg's airport was an eye-opener. Arriving from his reservation in Oklahoma, he's here to participate for 19 days in an agricultural exhibition where he'll explain Indian farming implements and methods. At Hamburg City Hall, Chief Hunting Wolf honored Mayor Dr. Neverman by presenting him with a ceremonial headdress. He named the mayor an honorary chief of his tribe, an honor which Mayor Neverman now shares with such notables as former President Eisenhower. Residents of Celle, which is located on the edge of North Germany's Lüneburger Heath, can set their watches every morning at precisely 7:30 by the sound of a tower trumpeter. About half of Germany's population live in similar small or medium-sized towns, many of which have retained their centuries-old atmosphere. Celle's 60,000 citizens consider this tradition every bit as normal as their middle-aged surroundings, and they certainly don't disavow their connection with the past. Wednesdays and Saturdays are market day at the Brandplatz, and farmers from the surrounding hamlets come to town to individually sell their produce from open pushcarts, baskets, and whatever else might be handy, much as they did 400 years ago when the young dukes were in residence here. Yet some of today's butchers, bakers, and candlestick makers do arrive in the latest model covered wagons.
Für eine Mark, Mark, eine Mark, so vermehrt. Und noch einmal die große Schraube 2 Mark, für 2 Mark, vermehrt 2 Mark. 2 Mark, 2 Mark, 2 Mark, 2 Mark, 2 Mark, 2 Mark. Oh, ja.
Für die Kinder kaufen Sie Bananen.
Und 8 Mark pro Banane.
Ganz wunderbar, Bananen, ganz klar.
350 old buildings built over a 400-year period comprise the heart of the city, and Celle is a beautiful sight. All of the streets in the old part of town lead to the town hall, built in 1580 in Weser Renaissance style. Celle's tradition-conscious elder generation sees to it that the city retains its ancient face. And now the thoughtlessness which came with the younger generation must again make room for the old. Here, a comparatively modern warehouse from the 30s is being torn down to be replaced with a new building which will bear a historical facade, which is what happened with this department store. The castle, of course, dominates the city's skyline. Its completion dates back to the founding of the city in 1292. The chapel in the South Tower is now an important artistic monument from the Reformation. Flemish master Martin de Vos, one of Tintoretto's pupils, created the crucifixion altar in 1569. When darkness sets in, the trumpeter once again performs his duty. But despite a musical timekeeper, gas lanterns, and idyllic corners, Celle is very much a normal city and not an open-air museum. The theater in the castle, the oldest and most performed on Baroque stage in Germany, presents Williams and Sartre as well as Shakespeare and Schiller. The ladies of the court once gossiped here. Today, it's the foyer of the theater. In Celle, past and present obviously live side by side in harmony. The Grey Castle is the history of the city, wrote poetress Lulu van Straussen-Tornay, but the small winding paths below represent everyday life and the living. Winter sports activity. It's North Germany against the South as the players do their best to slide into one another's nets. At this point, it was 1-0 for the North, but a Northern player, somewhat confused in the blizzard, drives one into his own net, tying it all up at 1 apiece. Aided by guideposts, a field more suited for a snowball fight, and 25,000 hardy soccer fans, the North finally beat the Munich squad 3-2, the result of 2 headshots by Germany's soccer hero, Uwe Celle. German figure skating has a replacement problem. Having lost world champions Kilius Boimler to professional ranks, big hopes in pairs figures currently rest with the recently crowned Bavarian and German national champions Sonja Pfersdorf and Günther Matzdorf. It was the first women's ski event of the new year in the Allgäu region of Bavaria, and just about every top female ski star in the world was on hand. The giant slalom course is a shade short of a mile long, and Frances Christine Guachel is doing her best here. She finally garnered 7th place. From start to finish, it's a 1,450-foot drop, and the course contains 53 gates. In the seasons between Olympic and World Championship events, the competition stays keen, albeit friendly. The best run of the day was clocked by Switzerland's 20-year-old Theresa Obrecht, number 4. And this is Germany's top woman skier, Heidi Schmidt-Biebel. She's from this area, and although she knows the run perfectly, she couldn't quite oust her Swiss counterpart. Simultaneously, ski jumpers met on the Schattenberg jump in nearby Oberstdorfer for the 13th International 4-Jump Tournament, which includes subsequent competition at Garmisch, Innsbruck, and Bischofshofen. Of the 70 competitors, Norway's 23-year-old Torgeir Brandtzæg was far and away, if you'll excuse the pun, the best. With leaps of 291 and 305 feet, he resoundingly outjumped all comers, and further competition even increased his lead. Torgeir Brandtzæg, the flying Norwegian, this year's 4-jump tournament champion.